The 2024 NFL Draft, mercifully, is almost here. So what does a perfect draft look like at the top for the Green Bay Packers?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. On the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free in the App Store or Google Play. Let's find a best case scenario for the Green Bay Packers. And I wrote about this a little bit yesterday for The Leap, and I want to be able to expand on it today. Plus, not all of you are subscribed to The Leap. And even those of you who are, it's like 2 paragraphs explanation for each little blurb. So let's dig in. Let's have some fun. The first round is the one that you want to talk about anyway. So who is the perfect Packer in the first round? Not who is the perfect Packer. Who is the perfect Packer in the first round? If you incorporate all the Packers types, all that stuff, historical hit rates, all those things, I think you over dwindle the list, because the Packers would take a linebacker in the first round if they thought someone was worth it. They've done it. And they would take, I believe they would take someone who is a guard only, or a guard center combo. They spent a top 50 pick on Elton Jenkins. They thought he could play tackle, but it was the all 5 versatility, really. And historical hit rates say maybe don't do that. They would take a safety. They've done it. Ted Thompson did it. Historical hit rates say don't do that. So this is not predictive. We're going to do that on Monday. We will predict. Our last mock draft Monday before the actual draft will be a prediction of what will in fact happen. What is the perfect scenario? Okay, so it's got to be a premium position. And we know the Packers just don't take receivers in the first round. I don't think there's a receiver that makes sense in the first round. We're talking about a player whose selection maximally improves your team. I don't think that's one of the defensive tackles, although I love Johnny Newton's tape. I don't think the Packers would take him with that no athletic profile, even if I think the tape is the best among the defensive tackles. Byron Murphy's going to go in the top 20. I don't think they're going to take Leatu Latu or Chop Robinson. Jared Verse could be interesting if he falls, but I don't think that maximally improves the Green Bay Packers. So that leaves corner and that leaves edge. No, sorry, that leaves corner and that leaves tackle. We just did edge. And Cooper DeJean, of course. But Field Yates got me a little scared, I have to be honest. Is he a safety? Is he a corner? Well, if he's a safety or he's Minkah Fitzpatrick, banking on that. I know the athleticism, the ball skills, like there's a ton to like about Cooper DeJean. I love Cooper DeJean. I did a whole segment on this show not that long ago saying Cooper DeJean no matter what. I no longer feel that way. Because I've come to the realization that I don't think corner, while I think it is a need, is not as pressing a need. And this Zach Tom stuff, it's not that it has me shook. It has given me clarity. It has given me an opportunity to say, oh, this makes it easy. Because the perfect Packer first round pick is Tyler Guyton. And I have mistaken his age because Wikipedia had it wrong. If you just Google Tyler Guyton age, For a long time, it said he was 23 years old. He's not. He's still only 21. He's 21 and a half. He will turn 22 this year, so it'll be his age 22 season. But he's not an old player by any means, and he was playing 2 years ago when he was 19 in big-time college football. The athleticism is everything the Packers could want. I don't think the height is a mitigating factor, and let me tell you why. I went back and looked over the last 5 drafts at the number of players to have a 3-cone as good as Tyler Guyton and be as tall as Tyler Guyton. It's 3 other guys. One of them is Joe Alt, who's going to be a top 5 pick. And then I thought, okay, how many guys have a short shuttle? So these are agility drills. There is a correlation, an established correlation between short shuttle and offensive line. How many guys at his height and being able to change directions, those things are usually inversely correlated. Like, it is tough to be that tall and move laterally. You can go forward and back, but usually not laterally. And redirection is usually hard. Like, think of it's like trying to move a Buick. Like, it's hard to do. 2 players in the last 5 years have a short shuttle as good as Tyler Guyton at his height. Tyler Guyton and Joe Alt. That's it. That's the list. We are talking about premium movement skills. He played right tackle at Oklahoma, so you don't have to switch sides. I know that there are Chargers fans right now wailing and gnashing their teeth over Joe Alt at 5 because they're like, well, he's never played the right side. Like, at that point, who cares? Joe Alt is an awesome prospect. He did play on the right side. They played unbalanced like 3 or 4 times a game. Yes, mostly running the ball, but like, that matters when it comes to comfort. He's fine. Don't worry about it. He's a really good player. But if the Packers are going to move Zach Tom, and even if they're not, draft Tyler Guyton. I really like what I see. I think there's more that can be done with his body. Former tight end, but I think you can improve his upper body strength. He is a people mover in the run game, a body mover right now. And I see a player who checks all the boxes for Green Bay. Could be a day 1 starter for Green Bay, but even if he's not, if he can't start until, let's say, year 2, okay, well, Josh Myers not under contract. Then you move Zach Tom and you've got Tyler Guyton ready to go next year. In the meantime, he's a swing tackle and he's probably going to have to play, let's be honest, offensive linemen get hurt all the time. It's really nice to have that depth. So in the absence of a true corner, now Cooper DeJean, yes, that is the other guy who would be on this list. And I think if you took Cooper, you can actually, and I did this exercise mentally after I wrote the piece, I think you can still have a pretty similar rest of your draft. The difference is there are corners and safeties I like on day 2. That's not true of offensive line past about pick 50. So by the time you get to 58, those guys are going to be gone. And at 41, you might not love your options. Who knows? Now you could have to trade up, but then like you don't want to have to trade up. That's the whole point. So why go, well, I could get to 41 and if I don't, I could trade. Like, no, just remove the mitigating factors and take the good player. That is ultimately my take. Take the good player. Tyler Guyton has Pro Bowl right tackle potential. Can play left tackle if you need him to. Now that might take some time. We've never seen him do it. But I think he has the movement skills. He has the mirror and match ability and pass protection. And he certainly is big enough, physical enough to move bodies in the run game as a right tackle if that's what you want him to be, a road grader. This team has gotten tougher. They have gotten nastier, and I love that. I think he fits right in. He fits right in with their path. And Tyler Guyton, they haven't taken a first-round pick that they've met with in a top 30 visit, I think, in a while. Maybe they've only done it one time. But he's just so Packersy to me that he is the ideal scenario for the Packers in round one. We're going to do round two in just a second here on Locked On Packers. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I'm finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly you can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. Charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent on your iconic properties or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part, the leaderboards, where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all the shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I found this difficult at 41 because the players that I like the best are offensive linemen. The guy that, to me, if I just knew how everything was going to play out, I would draft Cooper DeJean at 25 and Kingsley Suamataia at 41. But a couple of the things on that. I think the Packers are going to have to trade up to get Cooper DeJean, and that's not the ideal for this exercise. And Kingsley Suamataia, I would be straying pretty far from consensus. And I like the consensus board because history tells us the further you stray from consensus, the more likely you are to miss. So at 41, I did something that I didn't think I would end up doing, but there isn't a corner that I like here unless Kool-Aid McKinstry falls. If Kool-Aid McKinstry falls, no brainer, run the card in. Todd McShay said yesterday on a podcast that he thought there was a chance that Kool-Aid was a top of round 2 kind of player. At this point, I would give up draft capital to move from 41 up to 35, 36, 34 to get Kool-Aid easily. I think he's that potentially good a player. But I'm very happy with how this played out because the only linebacker I actually really like and feel strongly about in this class is Edgerrin Cooper. Do I have him at 41? No. But he's 39 on the consensus board. An elite athlete, 93rd percentile athlete at the position. And I do think he's a second round player. This is a second round pick. So I'm fine with this. Yes, history tells us be worried about being overconfident in your drafting of certain positions. Linebacker is one of them. But there has to be context here. To me, there is a pretty big difference between Edge Cooper and everyone else in this linebacker room. So that buys me, at least with me, a little more leeway to say, I think there is a huge gap between him and everyone else. And that leads me to believe I am more likely to be right in this case than in an average situation where I might have 3 or 4 second round graded linebackers. I don't have any other second round graded linebackers. It's just Cooper. So I think he is significantly better than everybody else. I think the things that he is good at are the kind of thing that the Packers are looking for, the kind of thing that they were looking for with Quay Walker. Now, you say, okay, but Peter, if you're going to take a non-premium position at a place where history says don't be confident in your ability to evaluate these players, why not Jordan Morgan at 41? Well, my answer is because. No, it's because frankly, I think Sean Ryan, I still believe in Sean Ryan. I think the upgrade from Sean Ryan to Jordan Morgan, I don't know that there's a big difference there. I like Sean Ryan coming out more than I like Jordan Morgan. Now Morgan's going to be, 2 years earlier in his development cycle, in his contract. And so that stuff matters too. But I just didn't feel like the incremental improvement justified this. The Packers, remember, the thing that I believe in is take the player who maximally improves your team. Well, Edgerrin Cooper might be a starting linebacker from the jump. And there is something, even if he's not a superstar. I think the current linebacker room stinks. So going from stinks to competent is a crucial thing, especially in a league where at linebacker, there are like 4 guys who matter. And if you're going to take a shot on one of these guys, and if you look around this class, there's Peyton Wilson, who I just don't see it with him. And everyone else, it's kind of like blah athletes, or you're really trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Like, I don't see it with Junior Colson. I like Jeremiah Trotter, but like, I don't see high level starting traits there. Like Trevin Wallace from Kentucky is the guy that I was trying to make this work. Like, can we get him in at 91? Can that work? And yeah, but what really this came down to is I just didn't love the other options at 41. I didn't love the other value plays here. Now, to me, that says move back or move up. Well, without knowing the players on the board, I can't really give you that. If you could just give up a 5th round pick or a 4th round pick to go from 41 to 28, or not 28, 38 for Kool-Aid, I think that would be the ideal. But that just seemed like too many variables to put in this exercise. So if you're going to stick and pick at 41, I think Edgerrin Cooper is, I wouldn't say a no-brainer, but I think a really good scenario for this defense. At 58, Javon Bullard. Now again, safety in the second round. How confident are we? Well, I'm fudging this a little bit because I think his best position is in the slot. I think he's a slot corner. I think that's where he's best. Now, I do like him, in some quarter situations where he's actually covering the slot because I think he can do that. He drives on the football with force. He comes down and tackles. I would really like the versatility and the interchangeability that you'd get with Bullard and McKinney. If you're going to have him play safety, I think he can play some nickel if you want him to, and some big nickel looks if you want to do that. Anthony Johnson and David McKinney back, and you've got Javon Bullard to play the overhang, lurk, do all kinds of different things if you want to do it that way. He is a good athlete, and you've just fixed the spine of your defense. Or at least you've efforted that fix, right? Edgerrin Cooper at linebacker and the other safety that you desperately needed. Someone who could step in right away, day one, and start. Like from single high, I don't love Bullard. I don't think that's where you want him. Playing the post is not where you want him. But in a 2-high safety look, hell yeah. And if he's going to be your strong safety, he can play really more like, don't think Cam Chancellor, think more Minkah Fitzpatrick, where you're going to have him play in the lurk. You're going to have him do some of the Darnell Savage robber stuff. Like that is where he can really shine. And we also know, because history tells us, that these Georgia Bulldog corners come in, Tyson Campbell, Eric Stokes, they come in ready to go. This is a well-coached defense. They have the best players in college football. And the Packers love Bulldogs. I would love this. I think he is a dog, and I'm not just talking Bulldog. And while I like some of the corner options that I would have had here, like Max Melton is another guy who could play the slot, could play outside. Drew Phillips, I think, reach a little bit here. But he's right on par with where the consensus rank is, 55th on the athletic consensus board. So you're getting what seems to be good value. You're not straying too far from what the markets are saying. But I still like the corners that are available. That's the beauty of this. At 88 and 81 and 91, I still think I have a chance to get some players that can help me. And that question that we addressed earlier, just how pressing of a need is it when you have Eric Stokes, if he can get healthy, when you like the development trajectory of Carrington Valentine, and of course you have an all-pro in Jair Alexander. Yes, you want some insurance, you want some questions answered. But how aggressively do you need to pursue those questions? I think the Packers, if a corner falls into their lap, great. But they don't need to rush it. Let's talk about the third round on the other side here on Locked On Packers. Locked On Packers is here today with the help of our sponsors at Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investments and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views with multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. I was just putting together the finishing touches on all my taxes. We're all, set now. But a couple weeks ago I was doing, and I got to pull from here. I got to pull from here. I got to figure out what's going on over here. That can be problematic. That can make things more complicated than they need to be. With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools you need in order to help reach that financial freedom that you're looking for, that we're all looking for. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. The number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination. That's yahoofinance.com, yahoofinance.com. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, just to recap here. You've got Tyler Guyton, the tackle, at 25. Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker, at 41. And Javon Bullard, the safety, at 58. What else could the Packers want? Juice in the running game. This is where it starts to make sense with these running backs. Now, the betting markets say that these guys could start going late second. But I think Trey Benson, by consensus, is ahead of this guy. Jonathan Brooks, by consensus, is ahead of this guy. Blake Corum could get drafted ahead of this guy. That's Jalen Wright, the running back from Tennessee. I mentioned that Georgia defense. First play of the game against Tennessee, Jalen Wright takes one 75 yards to the house. Actually made me, I was watching, who's I watching? Kamar Lassiter, I think. And it made me go, is Kamar Lassiter slow? And it turns out, yeah, Kamar Lassiter is slow. He ran 4.65. But Jalen Wright is freaky fast. And he reminds me of Aaron Jones. Someone who's got a little bit of an upright running style, but he's Aaron Jones if he had a jetpack. And in a year, you're going to need a complementary running back with Josh Jacobs. And he has the ability to be that I can have 10 carries in a game and have 120 yards. That Devon A-Chain kind of explosiveness that this running game hasn't had really since, I would say, 2020 Aaron Jones. He hasn't had that same sort of juice really since then. Where he, like, in 2019 and 2020, he's ending games on break-off runs. Like, he broke the game open against the Rams with a 60-plus yard run. That hasn't been on the menu as much lately for him, and I don't want to besmirch him just because he's walking out the door. But this team needs some juice with Josh Jacobs and AJ Dillon. They've got some power, they've got some versatility. Here's your plan to inject some fuel, some afterburners in this running game. Now, offensive line, guard, like Zach Zinter from Michigan or Dominic Pooney from Kansas, that works. A pass rusher like Adisa Isaac from Penn State or Jonah Ellis from Utah, those were considerations here. But I just think for this team, like you're going to be able to find an interior. First of all, you have a plan at interior offensive line. It's Sean Ryan. And I think it's a good plan. You have a pretty deep bench of pass rush, especially this year. You've got Kingsley Enagbare, who's going to be coming off injury, but you've got Lucas Van Ness, you've got Rashawn Gary, you've got Preston Smith, and he's under contract for a couple more years, even if he might atrophy as he gets a little bit older. This, to me, is in a year, this could be your run game, or could be, the lightning to Josh Jacobs' thunder in a run game that could be dynamic if that's how this breaks. The last guy here, one of my favorite prospects in this draft. And if he is there at 91 and the Packers take him, it will be tremendous value. He is someone I have in the top 50 on my big board. It's Kyrie Jackson, the corner from Oregon. Originally a junior college player. He goes to Alabama and then has this breakout season at Oregon. He's 6'3", 194. Now, if he gives you Kevin King vibes, I understand that. It's not that. He ran 4.5 flat and looks fast on tape, and an 11-foot broad jump. He is the perfect zone corner, cover 3 guy for this defense because he's big enough, long enough, 89th percentile arm length to play press on third down. Is he going to be the perfect guy to cover, the shifty route runner receivers in the league? No. Especially not from off. But if you're going to press guys on third down, if you're going to get up and give them the business at the line of scrimmage, which I think Jeff Hafley is going to do, then he is exactly the kind of corner that you're looking for because he can play press. He can play press man. And he can disrupt guys at the line of scrimmage. And yes, he runs 4.5, but there were multiple times on tape when I noticed the receiver had him stacked vertically. The ball is on the front shoulder, but like not out in front. So the front shoulder of the receiver, but not like out in front. So it's like 3% underthrown. And Jackson, because he is a pterodactyl and an explosive linear athlete, reaches his hand out, sort of leaps and knocks the ball away. And I was like, that is the kind of thing that you used to think you had a deep shot against Richard Sherman when he was in his prime, even when he wasn't in his prime. And you didn't. Just because his ability to use his body, to use his ball tracking, and to use his explosiveness, even post Achilles. That's the kind of thing that I think Kyrie Jackson can do. And he's in the third round now. Your insurance policy, if your insurance policy was the same price as your stuff, and you buy a Rolex and buy insurance for it, if the insurance was also 10 grand or 15 grand or 30 grand, depending on the Rolex that you buy, you probably wouldn't buy the insurance, right? Because then you just buy a new watch. So you have to get discounted rate here. So in the third round, if you can get a corner that you think can develop into being someone as good as what we saw from Eric Stokes originally, or just a starting caliber player, that is the ideal circumstance for the Green Bay Packers. I love this draft. It's a bummer to not get Cooper DeJean. I do think the problem is pragmatically speaking, I think they will have to trade up to get Cooper DeJean. And I think they might be willing to do that. That's the thing. And so I'm trying, but that's not the ideal to me, process-wise, because I don't want teams to be overconfident in their ability to evaluate. That's not how teams operate, even though they know this history. They know it. There's a great piece in The Athletic talking about this. Like, teams know what the numbers say. They know what history looks like. But no general manager is going to go, well, I don't trust myself to make these picks. No, you spend months on the evaluations precisely to do that. It's not the optimal way to do it. All right, back tomorrow. Much more here. As I mentioned, Mock Draft Monday. On Monday is going to be our predictions, but still plenty more to come before we get to the draft. And then we're going to be live Thursday night. We're going to be live Friday night. We're going to have shorts coming on YouTube, so go check all of that stuff out. We're going to have instant reaction videos up on the social media, so follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked on Packers. Follow us on Instagram, Locked on Packers. Follow us on TikTok, Locked on Packers. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe over there on YouTube, Locked on Packers, so you can stay Locked on Packers.